My sweet soul, let me hold your heart for a moment because I know it's bruised. I know it's been bent in the silence that follows a storm of sharp words. I know you've sat in rooms full of noise, only to feel the weight of your own quiet dignity press against your chest like a question. Should I have screamed? Disrespect. Oh, how it cuts. Not with fire, not with thunder, but with ice. It slips in quiet, leaves you cold, and dares you to shiver before others. It cloaks itself in sarcasm and mockery in the way someone looks sacred is not sacred. And yet here you are, still standing, still breathing, still carrying the crown they tried to knock from your head. You don't have to raise your voice to prove your worth. You don't have to twist your pain into poetry just so they understand they've crossed a line. Sometimes the most powerful response you can give to disrespect is silence soaked in strength. That quiet, yes, that stillness is not weakness.
It is resistance, it is restraint, it is raw. See, anyone can clap back, anyone can rage, but only the deeply rooted soul knows that silence, when held with intention, becomes a wall no weapon can penetrate. Says I saw what you did. I felt the sting.
But I will not reduce myself to meet you in the mud. It says, my peace is my protest. You do not have to fight every battle. Some battles are beneath you. Some responses are not worth your voice is sacred. Your energy is sacred. Your boundaries are holy ground. And when someone trespasses, you don't always need to build a bonfire. Sometimes you just walk away, quietly, powerfully, and completely whole. So if you've been disrespected, if someone tried to tear down what they could never build, if they licked your light and tried to dim it with shadows, this message is for you. This silence is not a pause, it is a pronouncement. It is a throne. It is your proof that you are no longer for shaking. You are for rising. Now, if you will open your heart, let me lay before you the wisdom in 5 powerful truths. So let us walk gently yet firmly into the soul of what the silence really means. Beloved, these are not just lessons, they are life. Let me give you the 5 reasons why silence after disrespect is not surrender. And now I offer you the truths that silence whispered when pain knocked on the door. There is a kind of power that doesn't shout, it doesn't stomp. It doesn't shake the table with rage or scream its worth into a world too loud to hear the truth anyway. No, this power is ancient. It is deep. It is still. It comes from the place within you that has survived too much to be stirred by anything less than divine. And it's that kind of power that silence holds after disrespect. When someone disrespects you, their goal is not always to break you. Sometimes it's just to pull you out of your peace, to rob you of your center, to tangle you up in chaos so that you forget your name, so that you forget your value, so that you forget you were made of stardust and bone and prayer and purpose. And if you're not careful, you'll take the bait. You'll try to fight fire with fire, only to find yourself scorched in the process. But silence, oh, sweet silence, that is where your power hides and heals. It is your boundary and your shield. It is your declaration that not every storm deserves a weather report. Not every insult deserves an answer. Not every wound needs to be shown for it to be real. When you stay silent after someone disrespects you, you are not surrendering. You are safeguarding your energy. You are choosing not to give away the most sacred parts of yourself to someone who has not earned the right to hear you. The world will tell you to clap back, to show them who they're dealing with, to remind them you're not the one to play with. And sometimes, yes, there's a time for that. But more often, when you respond to disrespect with silence, you are protecting something much greater than your pride. You are protecting your presence. Because when you choose not to engage, you're choosing yourself. You're saying, I am not for this noise. I am for higher ground. The loudest room is not always the most important one. The person who can yell the most vicious words is not always the strongest. And knowing that your voice has value and refusing to waste it, disrespect wants a reaction, not resolution. It wants to steal your calm and leave you rattled. But when you sit in your silence, unbothered, unmoved, untouched, you teach them. You teach them about grace under fire. You teach them that your spirit cannot be summoned by the smallness of their actions. There is something revolutionary about a woman, a man, a soul, who has every reason to explode, but chooses instead to breathe and say nothing. Not because the hurt didn't matter, but because the healing mattered more, because the future matters more. Because your peace is not up for negotiation every time someone forgets how to treat you. You see, disrespect often comes from the broken trying to break others. Hurt people hurting people. And though that may explain their behavior, it does not excuse it. But silence allows you to see that. To stand above it, to refuse to meet their pain with pain. Because you're not their mirror, you are not their match. You are the lesson they didn't expect, the calm they can't rattle, the dignity they can't dent. And I know, it's hard. I know your lips want to form the perfect response. Your tongue sharpens behind your teeth. Your hands shake with all the words you could say, should say, want to say. But sometimes silence is not the absence of wisdom. Your silence is not passive, it is powerful. It is active protection of your peace. It is choosing not to entertain a theater that thrives off of drama and disorder. It is a quiet revolution, a personal protest, a spiritual boundary that says, I know who I am, and your words cannot touch that. Let them talk, let them twist the truth, let them assume, because the truth doesn't need a megaphone, it just needs time. And when you stay quiet, not in fear but in faith, you give time the room to rise up and reveal what words never could. You allow life itself to speak for you. And trust me, it always will. Silence is not suppression. It is not weakness. It is the soul's way of saying, I have grown past the need to be understood by the unworthy. You do not owe anyone an explanation for your dignity. You do not owe anyone a response to their disrespect. What you owe is your loyalty to yourself, to your peace, to your healing, to your joy. So hold your silence like a crown. Let it rest upon your head as proof that you no longer fight for every inch of your worth. You know your worth. You walk in it. You breathe in it. And when someone tries to shake it, you don't flinch. You simply rise in your quiet strength and keep moving. Because what they wanted was noise. What they wanted was reaction. What they wanted was your peace in exchange for their drama. And what they got was your silence. And that's that. That silence is the sound of your power, undisturbed. Let them wonder. Let them feel the absence of your words like thunder in the distance. Let them try to guess what you're thinking, what you're planning, what you're feeling. That is not your concern. Your concern is the healing that comes when you choose yourself. Your concern is the joy that blooms when you don't let bitterness take root. Your concern is the beautiful, untouchable power that grows in the garden of your silence. So protect it, guard it, honor it. For silence after disrespect is not weakness. It is sacred power dressed in stillness. And it is yours to keep. There comes a time in every soul's journey when the heart must choose between the temporary satisfaction of ego and the eternal peace of wisdom. The moment you are disrespected, your ego rises first. It stands at attention, pounding its chest, ready to defend your honor. It whispers, I don't let them get away with that. It urges you to respond, to react, to prove your worth by striking back. But if you have walked this earth with open eyes and a tender heart, you know that ego is loud, but not always wise. It wants noise, it wants recognition. But what the soul craves deeply and quietly is stillness. Disrespect wounds more than just pride. It pokes at identity, at the memory of every time you weren't heard, weren't seen, weren't valued. It stirs up the old echoes of being overlooked, of being dismissed. That is why your ego screams. It doesn't just defend this moment, it defends every moment you've been broken before. But silence, oh silence, is not denial, and it is not defeat, it is elevation. It is the voice of the healed self that whispers, you don't have to shrink yourself to respond to something that is beneath your spirit. The ego seeks validation through reaction. It wants the last word's sharpness. It wants the other person to know they did not win. But when you stay silent after disrespect, you declare a deeper victory, one that has nothing to do with them and everything to do with you. You show that you are no longer controlled by the pull of your lower self. You are no longer chained to the need to be right in the eyes of people who cannot even see your light. And isn't that the hardest thing? to stay quiet when every part of you is begging to rise up and roar. But, beloved, the roar of the ego might shake the room, but the quiet of a healed heart shakes the heavens. It shows that you no longer need to explain your value, defend your dignity, or earn the respect that should have never been withheld. Do you know who you? And because you know, you can let go of the need to prove. That is what silence says. It says, I am not moved by your ignorance. It says, I don't need your approval to stand tall. It says, I don't fight with people who cannot meet me at the level of my soul. Ego would have you believe that silence makes you weak, makes you passive, makes you invisible, but in truth sovereign. It makes you wise, it makes you free. You do not become invisible by staying silent, you become untouchable. You rise above the petty, the shallow, the loud noise of a world that believes reaction may feel good for a moment. But silence feeds your peace for a lifetime. And let me be clear. Silence does not mean you don't feel. It does not mean you are not heard. It means you understand that giving your voice to someone who disrespected you is like handing over the key to your temple. Not everyone deserves entrance. Not everyone deserves access to your sacred. You have fought too long, cried too deep, grown too far to keep spilling your spirit in places that won't honor it. So when you choose silence, you are not running. You are not hiding. You are choosing a higher conversation, one that does not involve shouting or proving or matching energy. You are speaking to yourself in the only voice that matters, the one that says, or protect your soul. Don't sell your peace to buy their understanding. You know how strong you have to be to not answer disrespect with retaliation. You know how powerful your spirit has to be to not respond to ignorance with more noise. That is strength wrapped in grace. That is wisdom crediting power. That is what the ego can never teach, but silence always does. Let the ego shout, let it cry. Let it rage in the background like a storm trying to reclaim the sky. But you are the sky, and the sky does not explain itself to the thunder. The sky does not apologize for its silence. The sky simply stays vast, open, calm, knowing full well that it contains the sun, the stars, and every light that ever was. So when someone disrespects you and your ego rises to defend your worth, just pause, breathe, and ask yourself, is this worth disturbing my peace? Is this person's opinion greater than my growth? Will winning this argument make me more whole? The answer, more often than not, is no, because growth is not loud. Peace is not loud. Wisdom is not loud. They live in the quiet. They live in the silence you choose when you decide that you are no longer in service to your ego. You are in service to your spirit. Let them misunderstand you. Let them call your silence weakness. Let them think they've won because you didn't fight back. That is not your business. Your business is your own healing. Your business is your joy. Your business is the deep, deep knowing that you are powerful beyond measure. So powerful that you don't need to stoop to the level of disrespect to show it. You have cried enough tears to earn the silence. You have bled in places nobody saw, broken in places nobody helped you heal. And still, here you are, whole, breathing, glowing and quiet. That's power. That's what silence holds. That's what ego can never give. So the next time disrespect knocks, let ego rise if it must, but let wisdom answer. Let peace answer. Let silence stand in your place like a mighty wall of grace, not because you're weak, but because you're free. Because silence doesn't just protect your power, it is a kind of peace that cannot be bought. Not with money, not with praise, not with apologies that come too late. It is a peace that is carved slowly through storms and suffering. It's the kind of peace that settles into your bones after you've survived the chaos, the cruelty, the noise of other people's disrespect. And once you've found that peace, once it begins to bloom inside you like a quiet flower, you learn something sacred. You learn that silence isn't just a response, it's a sanctuary. When someone disrespects you, they don't just challenge your patience, they challenge your peace. They enter your space with their chaos and expect you to play host. They push buttons hoping to pull you into a war you never signed up for. And if you're not careful, if you're not centered, you will give them what they want. You will match their noise. You will hand them your calm and walk away with nothing but regret and fatigue. But silence, oh beloved, silence is your shield, it's your pause, it's your breath. It's the deep knowing that not every action requires your reaction. Not every wound needs your voice to explain its hurt. And not every person deserves a front row seat to your energy. When you stay silent after disrespect, you are not ignoring the pain. You are protecting the peace you fought so hard to find. Peace is expensive. It costs your ego. It costs your need to be right, to be loud, to be heard by those who were never listening in the first place. And when you've paid that price, when you've walked through enough broken days to finally arrive at a place where you can sit with yourself and feel whole, then you know that no one is worth losing that peace over. Not one person, not one insult, not one moment of disrespect. Silence becomes your keeper. It's the soft hand that leads you away from drama, away from the need to defend yourself to people who never took time to understand you. It is the way you say, I matter too much to bleed out on every battlefield. You learn to hold your tongue, not because you are weak, but because you are wise. You understand that you've become too valuable to keep explaining your worth to those who never looked at you with honest eyes. There is a stillness and silence hold so much. When they speak your name in ways you do not recognize, when they twist your kindness into weakness, when they treat your love like it was optional, stay silent. Let them talk. Let them assume. Because the truth is not moved by their noise, and neither should you be. Disrespect often comes disguised as misunderstanding, as jealousy, as projection. And when it arrives, it brings chaos with it. It hopes to make a home in your spirit. It hopes you'll let it settle into your heart and call it normal. But silence refuses entry. Silence is the door you close when the world becomes too loud to hear your own soul. It is the boundary that whispers, and not here, not ever again. You've been through enough. You've cried on floors where no one came to lift you. You've screamed into pillows that absorbed your pain without judgment. You've looked in mirrors wondering if maybe, just maybe, you were asking for too much when all you ever wanted was to be treated like you mattered. And after all of that, you deserve peace, not just on good days. Not just when everyone is behaving, but always. And the way you keep that peace is through silence. It takes strength to stay silent when disrespected. The strength of restraint, the strength of grace. The strength of knowing that the moment may pass, but the words you speak in anger can live forever. And so you choose differently now. You choose to retreat into your silence, not as a way of hiding, but as a way of healing, as a way of remembering who you are when the world forgets. Silence does not mean you accept the disrespect. It means you refuse to be defined by it. It means you let the fire burn without stepping into the flame. It means you trust yourself enough to know that peace is not found in winning arguments, but in walking away from ones that were never worth your voice to begin with. You begin to notice in time that the more you protect your peace, the more peace begins to protect you. It shows up in your health, in your smile, in your ability to sleep at night without reliving every confrontation. It shows up in how you carry yourself, not with arrogance, but with assurance, with the quiet confidence of someone who no longer needs noise to feel important. When others try to disturb that peace, when they try to provoke you, remember this. Your silence is not their victory. It's your choice. It's your declaration that you will not be moved by the shakiness of others. That you will not step down from your calm to fight battles that were designed to steal your life. There's a beautiful kind of power that comes from sitting with yourself in silence, letting the world spin while you remain centered. It is the power of a soul that has been through war and decided to build gardens instead. A soul that knows chaos well but chooses calm anyway. You don't have to explain why you're silent. You don't have to justify why you walked away instead of lashing out. Your peace is reason enough. Your growth is reason enough. Your healing is reason enough. And those who truly love you will understand that. They will see the silence not as retreat, but as radiance, not as avoidance, but as ascension. Let them think you're passive. Let them think you're afraid. What they don't know is that silence is harder than shouting. It takes more discipline to hold your peace than to hand it over. You are not hiding. You are standing in your truth, letting your stillness speak for you. In a world that glorifies noise, chaos, and quick reactions, be different. Be quiet. Be intentional. Be the one who holds their peace like it's holy because it is, because it cost you everything to find it. And because now that you found it, you know better than to give it away for free. So when the disrespect comes, and it will pause, breathe, feel the temptation to react, and then choose silence. Not because you're defeated, but because you've already won. Not because you don't feel, but because you've learned that some feelings are better felt in private, not displayed in public. Let silence be your anthem. Let peace be your protest. Let your quiet be the loudest thing in the room. Because in that quiet, your power lives. Your dignity lives, your healing lives, and nothing, no disrespect, no word, no wound, nothing is worth more than the sanctuary of your peace. There are lessons that no amount of talking can ever teach. No argument, no yelling, no explanation, no. Sometimes the most powerful education is not found in sound. It is found in silence. When someone disrespects you, they expect you to fight. They expect you to speak. They expect you to explode because that's what they know. That's what they're used to. But when you don't give them that, when you offer stillness instead of shouting, you teach them something they didn't expect to learn. That your presence is a privilege and your silence is a sentence all its own. There is a kind of silence that echoes louder than any scream. It enters the room like a shadow, calm and unmoved, and it says everything your lips didn't. It says, I don't need to lower myself to your level to protect my worth. It says, you will not drain me just to feed your ego. And it says, with the deepest clarity, you don't get to treat me any kind of way and still have access to my voice. See, when you stay quiet after disrespect, it throws them off. It confuses the chaos. It breaks the cycle because people who disrespect others often thrive on reaction.
That's how they measure their power. That's how they validate their control.
And when you do not respond, when you do not flinch, when you do not fight,
You take their weapon away. You remove the fuel from their fire. You leave them holding their own anger. They ain't able to hand it to you.
that is where the lesson begins. They learn that you are not a puppet. You are not a mirror. You are not here to reflect back their dysfunction. You are not here to participate in the noise. You are here for higher things, for peace, for purpose, for growth. And if they cannot meet you at that level, they are dismissed. Not with hate, not with bitterness, but with silence. It is not your job to teach them how to love you. It is not your responsibility to educate them about respect. Sometimes all you can do is withdraw. Sometimes all you can do is stop explaining, stop justifying, stop defending, and just be still. Because the right ones, the real ones, the worthy ones, they'll hear the silence. They'll feel it. They'll understand that something sacred was broken. And if they don't understand that, then they were never meant to sit at your table in the first place. Silence becomes your strength when you realize that your peace is more important than proving a point. It becomes your voice when you realize that not every battle needs your participation. And it becomes your boundary when you realize that not every relationship deserves your energy. That's not cruelty. That's clarity. There are people who will only start to understand the depth of their actions once your silence takes over. They won't realize how loud their disrespect was until your quiet leaves them in the aftermath. They won't understand how much your presence meant until your absence becomes the lesson. Because silence is not empty. It's full. Full of your growth, full of your bound. And sometimes you have to let that silence teach them what you no longer will. It is a strange and sacred strength to choose silence when every nerve inside you wants to scream. When your heart is pounding and your chest is burning and your mind is filled with all the things you could say, all the ways you could cut, could explain, could demand justice, but you don't. You breathe, you pause, you rise above. That is maturity. Power, that is maturity. Some may call it avoidance. Let them. Some may say you're weak. Let them. They don't understand what it took to get here. They don't know about the nights you cried yourself to sleep, the mornings you woke up tired from battles you never asked for. They don't know how much you've had to fight just to be calm. And they don't need to know because the lesson isn't for them, it's for you. You've learned now that your silence is sacred. You've learned that if they want to know how you feel, they should have listened before your silence fell. That if they wanted your thoughts, they should have honored your voice. That if they wanted access to you, they should have respected the space you held. But now the door is closed, not with hate, not with malice, but with quiet. And in that quiet message, right? A message that says, this is what happens when you choose to dishonor what was given to you in love. Silence is not punishment. It is preservation. It is prayer. You can talk all day to someone who's committed to misunderstanding you and still walk away empty. But silence leaves no room for distortion. It cannot be argued. It is what it is. Final, full, whole, and sometimes silence isn't even for them. It's for you. It's the way you reclaim your breath. It's how you choose yourself again and again. It's how you sit with your truth without trying to convince someone else to see it. Because your truth is not up for debate. Your worth is not negotiable. Your boundaries are not optional. So stay quiet. Let them learn. Let them sit in the silence they created. Let them wonder why you're no longer responding. Let them feel the loss of your energy, your love, your laughter. That is the lesson. That is the price. That is the power of a woman or man who has learned to honor themselves without needing to be loud about it. You don't have to yell to be heard. You don't have to explain to be understood. You don't have to fight to win. Sometimes the greatest victory is walking away with your peace intact and your soul unbothered. Sometimes the most profound statement you'll ever make is the one you never speak. So let them feel the silence. Let them sit with what they said. Let them wrestle with what they did. Because in your silence is a mirror they cannot avoid. And in that mirror, they will see the truth. Whether they learn from it or not, that's their journey. Yours is to keep walking with dignity, with grace, with your peace wrapped around you like armor. Silence does not mean nothing is happening. Oh no, something sacred is always happening in silence, growth, clarity, healing, boundaries being raised, love being redirected back to yourself. That's what's happening. That's the work. That's the fire inside the quiet. So the next time someone disrespects you, remember your silence is not the absence of a response. It's the lesson. It is the lesson. It is the power move, and it is more than. There comes a moment when the noise of the world and the chaos of broken people try to climb into your spirit. They knock loud and aggressive, hoping you'll let them in, hoping you'll react, hoping you'll break character and respond in ways that match their pain. But you, beloved, you have grown past that. You have learned that sometimes the most powerful answer is not silence, is not the absence of response. It is the final response. It is the closure they never expected, but exactly what they need. When someone disrespects you, they often think they have the final word. They hurl their insults, lace their voices with sarcasm, and stomp on your spirit as if it was made to endure their storm. Be a confrontation, maybe a long-winded message, maybe a tearful explanation, maybe a second chance they do not deserve. But instead, they get silence. And in that silence, they are left with their words echoing back at them. No applause, no argument, no emotional exchange, just the truth of their actions hanging in the air, unanswered, unacknowledged. That right there is the moment when healing begins. Not just for you, but for them, if they're wise enough to receive it, because silence gives people a chance to sit with themselves. It turns the mirror back around. It says, and now look at what you did. Without my voice softening the blow, without my love cushioning your fall. And that is the kind of closure that doesn't need to be delivered in a letter or a call or a scream in the dark. It's the kind of closure that settles over time like dust over an untouched room. It tells them they've lost access to your world, not through rage, not through drama, but through quiet truth. Closure isn't always found in understanding. Sometimes it's found in letting go without a single word. It's found in the quiet walk away, in the peace that follows you while confusion follows them. It's in the silence that says, you no longer get to rent space in my heart. Your time here is up. There is no need for long explanations. There is no need for justifications. I felt they know what they did. And your silence is the period at the end of a sentence they thought would continue. You teach them something profound when you stop responding. You teach them that they were never entitled to your emotional labor. That your forgiveness is a gift, not a guarantee. That your love comes with standards. And when those standards are broken, you do not chase, you choose peace instead. And oh, what a powerful teacher silence becomes when it is rooted in self respect. They might talk, they might spin stories, they might act like they don't care. But somewhere deep down, your silence will whisper louder than any scream could. It will visit them in the quiet moments, in the spaces between their sentences, in the times when they expect your voice but find none. Because silence teaches. You are not being passive by choosing silence. You are being precise. You are being intentional. You are choosing not to extend yourself as someone who made a habit of stepping on what you offered. And that decision, that boundary, is not born of bitterness, it is born of healing. It is born of the sacred realization that you are not responsible for repairing what they repeatedly chose to break. Closure sometimes is realizing they don't get to know how much it hurt. They don't get to see your tears. They don't get to hear your pain. They don't get a front row seat to your breakdown or your breakthrough. All they get is silence, and that silence, that absence of response, is what will teach them everything their pride refused to learn. It takes immense strength to stay quiet, especially when you're hurting, especially when you want to be understood, to be heard, to be seen in your fullness. But strength is not always loud. Sometimes it's sound in the brave act of choosing not to engage, of walking away with grace, of letting your silence speak the language of your boundaries. And as you stay silent, as you choose peace over proving a point, something beautiful begins to grow. You start to hear your own voice again. Not the voice that begs for clarity or pleads for justice, but the voice that simply says, "You are enough," without their apology, without their validation, without their understanding. That is the voice of freedom. That is the voice of release. That is the voice of a soul no longer entangled in someone else's chaos. The closure you need does not live in their regret. It lives in your decision to move forward. To not return to the table where you were the only one bringing nourishment. To not explain yourself to someone committed to misunderstanding you. To not reopen wounds just to make them comfortable. Let your silence do the talking. Let it say, "I deserve better." Let it say, "I am no longer available for your dysfunction." Let it say, "My peace costs more than your chaos can afford." Because at the end of the day, silence is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is knowing that your energy is a currency and not everyone is worth the investment. There's a holiness in the hush. A divine kind of defiance in the decision to not be pulled back into what you've from. You can love someone and still leave them behind. You can care deeply and still go silent. Because love without respect is not love. It is manipulation. It is noise. And silence is the sound of you setting yourself free. You are not heartless because you don't respond. You're not cold because you don't engage. You are reclaiming your narrative. You are rewriting the story where you are no longer the victim, the one who chose healing, the one who walked away, the one who knew that some battles are best won in the quiet, and they will notice, they will remember the quiet after the storm they created. They will feel the distance your silence carved between their actions and your worth. They will miss the sound of your care. They will miss the way you used to respond. But by then, your silence will have already spoken the only truth they needed to hear. This is over. This is done. This is me finally choosing myself. So keep choosing silence. Let it be your final word. Let it be your loudest boundary. Let it be the closure that neither one of you expected, but both of you needed. Let it speak what your soul already knows, that you are no longer available for disrespect, for chaos, for explanations that fall on deaf ears. Let your silence be your strength, your shelter, your sacred goodbye, because some goodbyes don't need to be said aloud, they just need to be honored quietly. powerfully, forever. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. When you stay quiet after disrespect, you are not surrendering. You are rising. You are choosing your peace over chaos, your dignity over drama, and your healing over their approval. Silence is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is how you say, I value myself too much to keep explaining my worth. Let your silence speak your truth, and let your peace be your loudest response.